Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Change Itself. I'm here with Eric Demers again, and thank you for tuning in, everyone. And as usual, if you want to keep following along, and this is the first episode that you've seen, you can catch us at changeitself.com or Change Itself on LinkedIn, where you can have access to this episode and all the other episodes that we've had. And here we go. So, Eric, we've got an interesting topic to cover with everybody today.
Yeah, this one's near and dear sometimes. Solutions evaluation. Um,
What a loaded topic.
it is. I just want to like blurt it all out, but no. So I think where this topic comes from is from personal experience on this one is really around because the administrator, one of the administrators for Sofvie for Technica, and we have custom forms. I'll often get the last, be the last one to know, oh, can you, build this form for me? And it's like, ooh, okay. Now I got to evaluate whether that's something we want to take on or not, and whether it adds value and follows the principles that we've put in place to guide ourselves in our journey of what we've put in there and what we don't, and whether it brings value to the end user. Um, and so, like, oftentimes I'll get the request and I look at it and I'm like, we could do this a lot easier, a lot better, maybe doing something different. And it's, sometimes it's crushing to kind of deliver that news. And person's put a lot of effort, great intention. They, they've thought it out. And then you're the person,
It has to say
squashing that.
no
Yeah.
or not right
So it's
now.
just like, it doesn't feel good, right? So I thought it'd be a really great topic to dive into. How do we evaluate, you know, uh, improvement projects or whatever solution we're bringing to make sure that it's actually the most effective and the best possible solution. So I don't know if you got any kind of
Yeah,
experiences that have gone that
it,
way.
it is a loaded
Or
topic, and
you get
I
clients
actually
like
attend.
me. You
Oh,
get clients like
everywhere.
me asking these crazy ideas that sound great for me, but in practice, that maybe they don't work for you.
It's the famous line of "All I want is a button that does this," and then they don't realize that it's a $50,000 ask. So, and it was funny is that like lately I've attended quite a few sessions, with the Chamber of Commerce and with Export Ontario and then Export Canada, and we I've had quite a few sessions where they talk specifically about data, right? And we think about um, how much data we're collecting today, and then how much repetitive data that we're collecting today, and then who manages all of this stuff, and how does it all come together. And when you look at organizations that with all good intentions bought best in class for a specific deliverable. So they bought a whole platform, but this one piece, and then another platform for this one piece, and then another platform for this one piece. And then this is like a trend that's happening, right? And was it really the right decision to make to bring in that level of a solution for that little piece, right? And so it was interesting to hear that feedback around now we got to create data lakes and we got to create like amalgamated databases that people can access to where all this information can be all centralized again, to get the value from it. And yeah, of course, on our side, we get it all the time around, could you just change this word, right, in this section? And then we have to take us, we obviously want to please as leaders and as a humankind, like we want to please, we want to make sure that we do things that make people happy. But then taking that step back and say, okay, before we just go ahead and do this, what are the impacts? Is it the solution that we're looking for? I know that the symptom presents that this is the solution that you want, but is it really what we want? Like maybe the solution actually exists 4 or 5 steps back. And then we say, if we fix it over here, then by the time it gets to this level, we actually don't need the solution at all. That comes to me all the time. And then, of course, I've got to be the bearer of bad news, just like you sometimes, and say, I understand the value that this could create. It's probably going to take us 3 to 4 months of design work and development work to get it done. it comes with a price tag of, you know, 150 to $200,000 to execute this one task. Is it still like, is this where you want to go? And then usually by applying those those key metrics to the ask, usually it's like, oh, hold on, let's reevaluate what we're actually looking to do here, because that seems a little steep for what we're trying to do with this one button or this one form or this one ask, right? So
Yeah, I'm finding myself, what I try to do is sit with the person, you know, tell me about the solution. Like, what are you like? Okay, and what's that trying to solve? And once I kind of get a little clearer on the problem we're trying to solve, and I understand why they're coming at the problem with the solution that they have, then I can consider, you know, what is the root cause maybe of that problem? Is there something we could go address there? Or is there another existing tool that we have at our disposal that'll, you know, you can get the same or better results without adding on this additional, oftentimes it'll be a form, right? So if you want to bring in this form, and what I usually find is that if you look back, we're trying to put a form in because some other system broke down, right? Yeah. We have housekeeping is an issue in the shop, so we want to make a checklist that we're verifying every single part of the shop to make sure that it's clean and orderly. The intent is great. We want a clean and orderly workspace. The reality is there's a breakdown in whether it's accountability, whether it's your, you know, pre-task process where you're inspecting your workplace before you get started, but we're going to fix it by adding a form. Unfortunately, with my experience, I've seen that the form is just going to be another document that may not get filled out. And then the housekeeping will eventually slip again, right? It'll help in the short term. And then a month later, the form's not being used. The shop or the space or the workplace could be back into the same place. Like, it doesn't replace leadership. You still need to be in the field, making sure people are doing the things they're meant to be doing. And so, like, that's often one of the things that I've done. And then one of the things that really kind of drove this home for me was around evaluating training. It wasn't even with the form stuff. I kind of put those two together after the fact. But one of like the magic bullets when we have an incident is beef up the training, do more training, create a training. And you're like, wait a second, they're already trained. What's going on? And like, is that really going to do anything? And then we get into some different, you know, learning evaluation models, whether it be the Kirkpatrick model or ADDIE. And then you start to evaluate, like, what is it that I really need here? And then that's for me when a light went off and went, wait a second, we're not just doing this for training, because often we're coming with the solution of training. And we need this training in place because we want this better result over here. But like, we're just putting training in place because we had a breakdown in, you know, there's a missing standard, or we didn't follow up on this expectation, or, you know, there's some other piece of the puzzle that led to the event. But it's like training is, it seems like it's the easy go-to, everybody knows about it, let's go do that one, right? So when I first got, you know, put onto this idea of evaluating, like, what are you actually trying to get out of your training? Like, what are the different levels or the business, you know, level impacts that you're trying to make, and how are you measuring these things? That clicked for me and went, ooh, that doesn't only apply to training, that might apply for other, you know, improvements. People were coming at it from a solution. I'm guilty as the next person, right? But when I think about it and I apply some little bit of backwards thinking on it, and I can get back to what is the root cause of my problem, and then what do I need to go address?
Yeah. And then sometimes you got the cheeky response of, you're right, we do have to come up with a training on how you follow up on training. Right?
Yeah, that one's an interesting one. You try to let the person come to that conclusion on their own. That would be my advice.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think, you know, like that whole game of peeling the onion, like, you know, peeling the layers and getting back to the foundational spot where, you know, like you just mentioned about like, what result are you looking for? And then you may think of 15 or 20 different ways you can get that end result. And sometimes no change at all is the result. So I just went, I just went through that exercise as well, where we do have an end-to-end process. The end-to-end process is there, and everybody's trained on the end-to-end process, yet the result is not necessarily what we're looking for. And then you realize, you know what, maybe we went with that whole end-to-end result a little too early, and we need to realize that everybody's on their own journey, right? So maybe one training will get you to a 20% return on the result. And then the next step is the follow-up on training will get you the extra 20% on result. And then a few months later, having a competency check. And then that gets you another 20% on the result. And then eventually you get to 100, right? So I guess what I'm getting at is understanding where people are in their journey will also help you evaluate the solution you got to put in place based on that. And then to your point, they're going to end up getting they're going to end up accelerating and finding their own results that maybe you thought of in the first place.
Yeah.
But they got to experience it themselves and kind of create their own pains along the way to get to that same end result that you could have just done on day one, but they weren't ready to absorb it yet.
One thing that like an example that I've lived through, witnessed, was at Technica. We go back several years at this point, probably 2016-ish, and we were doing annual safety plans, and they were done by project. So we had our health and safety program, our health safety management program, that outlined the basic things that we required supervisors and managers to do. So whether it was a visible felt leadership layered audit, workplace inspection, personal contacts, job observations, job demonstrations, like very specific, with a very specific number of these activities. And, you know, if done well, back then our idea was if we did these well, they would be, you know, we would get really good results and we'd keep people safe. And over time, been able to prove that. But what happened back in when we made these plans individualized, and people didn't quite necessarily understand that, this idea of more is better became a thing. And when we started to see as individual managers coming up with plans with, instead of 1 workplace inspections for the month, you had 4 workplace inspections for the month. And when you, per supervisor, when you multiply that by 4, there'd be 16. And so it just became like there's a lot of waste there and overdoing it. And so the value in that activity eventually got dropped off because we didn't actually see better results when those things happened. We've seen better results when we say, okay, let's stick to what we know works, the basic formula, but let's do that well. And let's support doing that well. And when we do that, we've proven it time and time again that works. So like the solution of adding a job observation because my job's not performing well typically doesn't help. You're probably missing something in the job observation portion that's not quite there yet. And if you're going to go spend some time and energy in the quality of that activity and being present in the field, you're going to get better results. That's kind of the lived experience that we've had.
Yeah, no, and it's fair enough. And then we're seeing that a lot in our sales cycle as well, is that, you know, the initiative is to do more, right? And then without necessarily having a budget to do more. So then they go through the whole exercise of trying to find a solution that's going to fit the requirements that they have based on what they want to do. And then, of course, because they got no budget, it's, you know, as little as they can spend. And then in a short period of time, you realize, wait, we're actually burning a lot of energy implementing something rather than holding back, evaluating what is the result that we're looking at achieving first, and then going to market to get the solution that they need to drive that result. Right. So then it comes full circle again. And then we go through this whole exercise. Right. So I think in closing, I think one of the things that, you know, we could probably recommend for everybody out there is everybody wants to be in action and everybody wants to be the person that just kind of provides the solution to kind of save the day. But there is the opportunity to say, I could probably save the day today, but am I saving the year, or am I saving the month? Because I might just be postponing the actual real result that we could be gaining if I just take an extra day or two and just really think about it. And then now you become even more empowered because you didn't just save the day, you saved a lot of days, right?
One of my favorite quotes that you use all the time, especially when we're talking, I'm like, oh, we should, can we consider doing this? Just because we could doesn't mean we should.
Yeah.
Right. And that always grounds me and go, man, Gus is right. And then we gotta, either readjust the expectations or go back and reevaluate the actual problem. But one of the things, if I can leave with something from this for this episode for people, is really what I've learned and what we've implemented coming out of the training, where the training was the solution, is we actually just put a process in place to take the problem or the solution and put it through kind of a verification and a work process for the person to work through, get clear on what the problem is, and then know who they can go talk to bounce ideas around and come up with something that will work for everybody, all stakeholders, including that person and individual.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Eric. And I think we did like we always do in our episodes. We kind of smash a lot of information in there, and I hope that our viewers are getting a lot of value in what we're bringing to the table. And at the very least, they could say, "Hey, you know what? This is not just happening to me. It's something that that goes on everywhere. It's a common thing." So, thanks again for everybody for tuning in and following along. And again, if you're new to our show and you want to see more, changeitself.com or Change Itself on LinkedIn, and go ahead and ring that bell, hit the like button, and leave your comments, because we'd love to hear from you. And we'll catch you next time.